Oh, look at that. 6 more classified documents seized at President Biden's home in Delaware. Weird. Now, the White House continues to actively avoid any questions about President Biden's top secret documents, despite the national security risk of unprotected documents in next to his Corvette with Hunter Biden had access to, but whatever,
For more on what Americans need to know, we're joined by former National Security Council Chief of Staff and America First Policy Institute Senior Fellow, Fred Fleitz. Fred, welcome back to the show. Good morning.
Good to be here. Good morning.
Listen, I don't know where next they're going to find one of these documents. It just keeps coming. It's a constant drip. But, Fred, Americans care, and they should, about how careless the president has been. And you're going back now, not just as president, vice president, Senate. This is just overwhelming at this point. Where do you think we go from here?
Well, I think either the White House or the Justice Department or the special counsel were worried about the double standard that Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was searched, but there was no objective law enforcement search of Biden's house. But this was not a raid. This was a kinder and gentler search. The president's attorneys were allowed to accompany the FBI. They only took documents that they thought were related to the investigation. And I might add, press reports say they took 6 items. We don't know if this was 6 pages, 6 documents, 6 envelopes, 6 boxes. We don't know yet. And, there was no announcement this was coming. Now, remember the raid of Mar-a-Lago. The press was told in advance. The president's attorneys, President Trump's attorneys, were not allowed to accompany them. They searched Melania Trump's bathroom and closet. They seized President Trump's passports. Obviously, there's a huge double standard here. And I think in many ways, Biden wanted to go through the motions to say that there was a search of his home, and we really don't know what was found.
Right, but I have a theory that, and I talked about it in the last segment, which is just like they knew this was inevitable, and they've been kind of leaking this stuff out, despite the fact that the DOJ and the White House had an agreement, they said, about not letting these, not making this public, and then obviously, thankfully, it leaked. But Fred. I had a very high security clearance when I was a SEAL. These are lawyers, though, Biden lawyers, who, to your point, Trump lawyers were not allowed to be in this search because they said they didn't have classified authorization. Biden's lawyers didn't have authorization to handle this type of classified information. They were looking for classified documents. Why did they initially decline? Why did the DOJ initially decline to participate in a search? And why all of a sudden now? Is this the drip, drip, drip? And they were like, there's no there there. This has been going on for weeks. Trust me, everything's okay. I mean, Biden is so old that he started in the Senate with people. He served with people who were born in the 1800s, when the light bulb was invented. And that's how far back he goes. So, is this the tip of the iceberg?
I think Biden was taking a lot of heat that his uncleared attorneys were searching for classified documents. And in a way, this may have been an attempt to head that off. But, they're saying that there were documents, as you're mentioning, from Biden's time in the Senate. He was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. When he was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and he was a senator, his offices were not SCIFs. They were not authorized to hold classified documents. So I'm wondering how classified documents from his time in the Senate made it to his home. At least in his vice president's office, it was a SCIF. He was allowed to keep classified documents there.
Just one other point, Carl, you mentioned how, the argument that DOJ had was that, President Trump's lawyers didn't have clearance. But no one said that they had to go and read the documents. They just wanted to be in the room present, which they are legally allowed to. I've served many search warrants over the years. We always allowed the homeowner to be there. If we felt in danger, we'd actually cuff them. But if not, they still had a right to be there. So that's complete nonsense. Let's take a look. Here's what President Biden actually had to say.
We found a handful of documents were filed in the wrong place. We immediately turned them over to the archives and the Justice Department. We're fully cooperating and looking forward to getting this resolved quickly. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly what we're doing. There's no there.
Something, Fred? I can't help it. It just comes back to me. I've done a lot of interrogations, as an FBI agent, and when someone tells me how much they want to cooperate and how they're doing everything, and that they're so confident there's nothing to be found, I can promise you there's something to be found. Fred, what do you say about that?
Well, look, classified documents have been found in at least 3 locations: at the president's think tank office, which is funded by the Chinese, in his garage, and somewhere in his home, probably his home office. And documents were sent to this think tank that didn't exist when Biden left office. There's all kinds of questions here about how these documents ended up in that office.
Wait, hold on, Fred. Let me stop you. Hold on. Documents were found in the think tank that didn't exist at the time he was vice president?
No, the think tank didn't exist.
Oh, the think tank. Oh, okay. I thought I was wanting to make sure. I was like,
how did they get there? Where were they in the meantime?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a really good question. Lastly, Fred, if you have a scenario like this, like and I said this in the panel earlier, we know that Hunter Biden has received numerous incomes from numerous countries, some of which these documents pertain to. And we know, look, Zelensky ran on, getting the corruption out of Ukraine. But prior to that, it was known for its corruption. So, how at some point you have to rationalize the fact that the dots connect, right?
I'm really concerned that there could be documents about China and Ukraine that are classified in these documents, given the relationship of Hunter Biden to the Ukrainians and the fact that his father might have been involved. And look, with a normal FBI raid of Biden's home, they would have seized huge numbers of documents. This could have included documents related to Hunter Biden's business dealings with Ukraine, because we know Hunter lived in the house. Could he have been using his father's office or other parts of the house? If these documents were discovered, that's something that the Biden family does not want the U.S. government to have. But it sounds like the way this raid was done yesterday, they were very careful not to take anything related to that were not related to their investigation.
Follow the money. If you can release Trump's tax returns, I want to see Hunter's. Fred Fleitz, appreciate you being here, sir.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Your retirement funds are being threatened with even more losses from record inflation, recession, and skyrocketing interest rates. Fortunately, the highly trained specialists at American Hartford Gold can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. If you call them right now as a special offer, they will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order, so don't wait. Call 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532.